The Lysar system hung in the void like a forgotten jewel, a quiet crossroads between ancient star lanes, its sparse asteroid belts shimmering against the black canvas of space. For decades, Lysar had been a sanctuary of sorts, a neutral ground, where merchants, diplomats, and wanderers found refuge under the fragile peace brokered by the Galactic Concord. Inside the orbiting station Lysar Haven, the mood was lighthearted, almost too lighthearted. Traders bartered with weary smiles, and diplomats exchanged pleasantries coated with cautious optimism. The centuries-long conflict between the Lithari, Hagari, and Zeltak had dwindled to little more than political theater. The warships that once ruled these skies were mothballed in distant yards. Patrol fleets were lean and wary. Captain Rena Tessari leaned against the observation window of the station's command deck, sipping her synth tea, eyes tracing the slow arc of a merchant cruiser as it docked. The light of the nearby star glinted off its hull, and for a moment the galaxy seemed at peace. Too peaceful, she murmured, her voice barely audible over the hum of consoles. Her second-in-command, Lieutenant Jarek Vorn, glanced up from his terminal. "You mean you miss the chaos?" Rena smiled wryly. "Chaos is predictable. This silence? It feels wrong." Jarek chuckled. "Maybe you're just restless." But Rena's unease was not mere superstition. Her station's sensors had picked up something earlier, an energy spike so faint it nearly escaped notice. The array's operator, a young tech named Miro, had hesitated to report it, but Captain Tessari insisted on a full sweep. Whatever it was unlike anything in the Concord's archives. Now the station's communications officer interrupted their quiet moment, her face paling. "Captain, we're getting interference on the long-range sensors. A flicker in the outer system. It's brief, but it's..." Before she could finish, the lights in the control room dimmed for a heartbeat. A low hum buzzed through the station's metal hull, barely perceptible but enough to send a ripple of tension through the crew. "What was that?" Jarek asked, eyes narrowing. "No idea," Rena replied, tapping her console furiously. "Check the external diagnostics. Something's out there." Suddenly, the main screen flickered and a burst of static overwhelmed the feed. The starfield behind the station warped and shimmered as a new object appeared. A colossal ship, unlike any the galaxy had seen in centuries. Its hull was a labyrinth of angular plates and sprawling turrets, coated with dark alloys that absorbed the star's light. The design was brutal, functional, almost archaic, but unmistakably human. The emblem on its prow was cracked and weathered but still visible, a faded Earth flag from the long-lost Terran command. "Impossible," whispered Miro, eyes wide. "That ship was destroyed 200 years ago." Captain Tessari's jaw tightened. "It's real. And it's here." The ship, silent as a ghost, hovered in orbit around Lysar's largest moon, its weapons systems cold but unmistakably active. Then, as if sensing the station's gaze, the ship's sensors swept Lysar Haven with a pulse of energy. Every system on the station flickered again. Communications, navigation, life support, all destabilized for several heartbeats. The crew scrambled to stabilize the systems. Panic flared in the control room as comm channels went dark across the system. Outside, the stars themselves seemed to waver. Rena's voice cut through the chaos. "All stations, report status." Static was the only reply. "Lieutenant, send an emergency distress call to Concord Command. Tell them we've lost contact with all outer posts." Jarek nodded and began transmitting. But before the message could fully send, a sudden explosion rocked the station. Debris floated through the observation window, and alarms blared in every corridor. "Impact on the starboard hull. Damage report." "Unknown. Source," the engineering officer called out. "It hit like a kinetic rod. Massive force pinpoint strike." Rena's heart pounded. This was no accident. No mere malfunction. "We're under attack." The silence was broken, and with it, the fragile calm of the galaxy shattered. The Hagari scout frigate Veltar cut through the cold void toward Lysar, its sleek hull glinting faintly under the distant star. Commander Savax stood on the bridge, eyes locked on the sensor readouts flickering before him. The ship's AI repeatedly flagged the same impossible signature, an ancient Earth battleship, cloaked in mystery and bristling with unknown weapon systems. "We've never seen anything like this," murmured Lieutenant Raquel at his side, fingers dancing over the controls. "The FTL wake is erratic. No known drive pattern matches." Sfax narrowed his gaze. "Or it's deliberately masking its signature." The Veltar was the fastest frigate in the Hagari fleet, designed for reconnaissance and rapid strikes, but even it struggled to keep up with the elusive ship's maneuvers. The AI projected the enemy's path, a straight course for the Lysar system's neutral zone. "Report to command, we are engaging," Sfax ordered. "We must confirm its intentions before the Concorde can respond." The crew obeyed, tension thick in the recycled air. The captain's voice was calm but firm. No one wanted to believe that the legends were true. Humanity's final battleship, the TSV Revenant, was nothing more than a ghost story. Until now. As the Veltar neared Lysar's outer orbit, the monitors pulsed suddenly with static. A high-pitched screech sliced through the comm channels, scrambling all transmissions. "Communications are down," cried Raquel, hands flying. Over the console. "Signal interference, source unknown." Sfax clenched his jaw. "Prepare to scan visually, identify friend or foe." The viewport cleared, revealing a hulking silhouette against the backdrop of stars. The Revenant. Its hull was an architectural nightmare of layered armor, razor-sharp edges, and weapon emplacements dormant but ominous. The ship carried the scars of countless battles, blasted plates, and scorched sections, but still it loomed like a war god from a forgotten era. "Open a hail," Sfax commanded. "Standard protocol." Seconds stretched into minutes. The Veltar's voice echoed across the void. "Unidentified vessel, state your name, origin, and purpose. This is the Hagari scout frigate Veltar, operating under the Galactic Concord." No response. Suddenly, the Revenant's silhouette shifted. A pulse of golden light flared from a concealed array, and the Veltar's shields flared in alarm. "Weapon discharge detected. Prepare for impact." Before the crew could react, the frigate's hull groaned under an invisible assault. Systems blinked offline as power surged and died, weapons flickering uselessly. "Damage critical," the engineering officer shouted. "We're losing propulsion. And weapons." Sfax slammed his fist on the console. "Evasive maneuvers, now!" The Veltar spun wildly, dodging invisible strikes, but the Revenant's tactical AI anticipated every move with deadly precision. The frigate's thrusters were crippled, its systems collapsing one by one. "Abandoned ship," Sfax barked, voice tight with disbelief. Escape pods ejected into the void, tiny specks against the vast, silent ship. The bridge crew scrambled to evacuate as alarms blared. Sfax lingered a moment longer, eyes scanning the Revenant's eerie hull. Then the communications channel crackled, static first, then a voice that was not quite human. It spoke in a broken, static-riddled language, blending long-lost Earth dialects with a mechanical cadence. "They are coming." The voice paused, then added in perfect galactic common, "Prepare. The reckoning begins." The Veltar's bridge erupted in chaos as the transmission ended abruptly. Sfax's last ordered words were lost in a burst of electromagnetic interference. In the aftermath, only fragments of the Veltar's data made it back to Concord Command, distorted recordings of a ship that fought without crew, and a voice warning of something far greater than any could imagine. At Teal, the council chambers, the assembled delegates exchanged grim looks. "We thought humanity was gone," murmured Ambassador Kelvran of the Zeltak Dominion. "Apparently, they never left," replied Councillor Hatrax of the Lithari. The message was clear. The galaxy's most feared weapon had reawakened, and the calm before the storm was about to end. The silent darkness of space shattered in an instant. Across Lysar's outer orbit, the colossal Earth battleship TSV Revenant, a name that once haunted the oldest war archives, awoke with deadly purpose. Its hull shimmered with dark alloys that absorbed the star's light, casting an ominous shadow over the moons below. Inside the command bridge of Lissar Haven, Captain Rena Tessari stared at the panoramic view screen in frozen disbelief. The sensor arrays buzzed and crackled, unable to keep pace with the Revenant's movements. The ancient ship was a ghost come to life, and its power was beyond any modern fleet's reckoning. "Captain," Lieutenant Jarek Vorn said, voice tight, with tension, "the Revenant has initiated kinetic bombardment on Lysar's largest moon. Impact detected in 3, 2. Before the words finished, a blinding streak tore through the void. A massive tungsten rod launched from orbit, slammed into the moon's surface. The explosion rippled like a shockwave through the station's sensors. "Damage report," Rena barked. "Seismic activity registered off the charts," the science officer replied. "The moon's crust is fracturing, several mining outposts destroyed." The crew exchanged grim looks. This was no warning shot, it was a calculated strike, precise and ruthless. The Lysar Haven's emergency sirens blared. Crew scrambled to stations, but systems flickered and died one by one. "Communications are failing," the COMEM officer reported. "We can't reach any outposts. The entire Lysar system is going dark." Rena clenched her fists. "Get me Council Command. Now." Static answered her instead. Across the system, a fleet of Concord ships was assembling. 5 battle cruisers, from the Lithari, Higari, and Zeltak fleets, their hulls gleaming under the distant sun. They moved with military precision, weapons primed for confrontation. Fleet Admiral Selk of the Lithari flagged the Lysar Haven transmission. "This is Fleet Command," he announced. "All units, prepare for engagement. The Revenant is an unknown, hostile. Do not underestimate its power." The flagship Sovereign and its escorts formed a battle line around Lysar's main station, their targeting arrays locking on the Revenant. For the first time in decades, the galaxy's forces were united by fear. But the Revenant did not wait. From the shadows of space, it struck with terrifying speed. Its weapon batteries flared, launching streams of kinetic slugs and plasma bolts that shredded the cruiser's shields. The fleet scrambled to respond, but every salvo was anticipated and countered. "Admiral, we're taking heavy losses," cried Captain Yulrin of the Higari cruiser Duskfire. "Their targeting isn't perfect. They know our formations before we even make them." Selk's jaw tightened. "Electronic warfare is disrupting our FTL jump drives. We can't maneuver." On board the Revenant, the command bridge was eerie in its silence. No bustling crew, only dimly glowing consoles and an AI core humming with cold precision. Sensors detected every move, every weakness in the enemy's lines. The Revenant's AI launched a new weapon, gravitational mines that warped the space around the fleet, dragging ships into collision courses or tearing their hulls apart with tidal forces. One by one, the conquered ships exploded or were crippled. The Sovereign's captain ordered a desperate retreat, but the Revenant pursued, a relentless predator. Back on Lysar Haven, Captain Tessari watched the carnage unfold through the station's panoramic viewport. "We can't hold this position much longer," she said. "Recommend evacuation protocols for non-essential personnel." Suddenly, the comm panel lit up with an incoming transmission. The message was short. An old Earth War anthem, distorted and haunting, playing over the channel. Then a voice, mechanical yet eerily human, filled the bridge. "Terran Sovereignty Protocol online," it intoned. "Sovereignty reclamation initiated." Rena's heart froze. "Who are you?" she demanded. The reply was chilling. "We do not forgive. We do not forget. We are human." Then the comm cut out, replaced by static. The Revenant's shadow loomed over the system as the battered Concord fleet limped away. The galaxy understood a terrifying truth: humanity had returned. Not as diplomats, not as supplicants, but as warriors born of vengeance and survival. The calm had ended. The storm was here. The Galactic Council chamber was a vast, circular hall floating in the void, its walls lined with shimmering data streams and holographic maps. Delegates from every major species, Lithari, Higari, Zeltak, and others, sat in tense silence, the weight of recent events pressing on every mind. Ambassador Kelvran, a tall Zeltak with shimmering blue scales, leaned forward. This revenant, it is unlike anything we've encountered. Its design, its tactics. This is not a random remnant. It is a relic of Earth's darkest days, resurrected and weaponized. Counselor Hatrax of the Lithari rubbed his chin thoughtfully. History records the fall of Terran civilization nearly 2 centuries ago. The Scourge Wars crushed Earth and its colonies. We believed humanity extinct. But now it seems the opposite is true. Kelvran replied grimly. We must understand how. We need answers. In a secure research facility on the edge of Zeltach space, a team of historians and xenologists worked feverishly. Dr. Lena Morales, a human specialist long obsessed with Terran history, led the effort. Her team decrypted data fragments salvaged from the Revenant's wreckage and transmission bursts. The trove was vast yet incomplete, a puzzle with missing pieces. We're looking at a warship built not just for battle, Lena said, scrolling through hollow records of the ship's schematics. This ship carries legacy technology, but also systems far beyond anything in the current Galactic Concord. One fragment showed an old Earth battle command log, dated shortly before Earth's final siege. Look here, Lena pointed. The Revenant's last mission was to secure a hidden refuge, a secret sanctuary built to survive the extinction of Terran civilization. Her assistant, Joran, frowned. But where is this refuge? We haven't located any active human colonies. Lena shook her head. They went dark, disappeared from galactic records. Earth never truly fell. It went underground and beyond. These fragments suggest a doctrine, the Soul Reclamation Directive. Outside the lab, news of the Revenant's return spread like wildfire. On distant worlds, populations debated the implications. Was this humanity's vengeance? A last-ditch effort for survival? Or something worse? Back in the council chamber, the assembled delegates received an encrypted transmission recovered from the Revenant's AI core. It was a chilling message, layered with encryption and fragments of extinct Earth languages. We will not be erased, repeated over and over. Atrax's eyes narrowed. This is a warning, a declaration. Humanity has not forgiven the galaxy's past betrayals. As the council deliberated, Lena and her team uncovered disturbing new data. The Revenant's AI was not purely machine. It contained fragments of human consciousness, warriors who had uploaded their minds to survive the cataclysm. The ship was a fusion of flesh, machine, and memory. The Revenant is a vessel of vengeance, Lena said, quietly, an echo of a lost humanity, bound to reclaim its place by any means necessary. Outside the research station, dark clouds gathered over Lysar's moons. The first signs of conflict rippled through the system. Mining colonies were abandoned, trade ships ceased transmissions. The Revenant was no longer a ghost, it was a storm approaching the heart of the galaxy. In a hidden chamber beneath Lysar's surface, a console flickered to life. A soft hum filled the air as dormant systems activated. Reactivation sequence. Complete, a synthesized voice intoned. Directive. Begin Sol reclamation. Deep below, ancient human symbols glowed faintly in the darkness, signs of a civilization long thought lost, but now awakening. The galaxy held its breath, because the story of humanity was far from over. The void around Lysar burned with the light of a dozen warships. The Galactic Concord's task force, a fragile coalition of Lithari, Hagari, and Zeltak vessels, formed a grim battle line against the looming menace of the TSV Revenant. This ancient Earth battleship, long thought lost to history, moved like a shadow of death, silent, unstoppable, and merciless. Fleet Admiral Selk's flagship, the Sovereign, hummed with tension as sensors tracked the Revenant's every movement. From her bridge, Selk surveyed the battlefield, ships positioned for strength, their weapons primed, crews tense with anticipation. Open comms to all units, Selk ordered. This fight will test everything we know about warfare. His voice was steady. But inside he wrestled with a gnawing doubt. The Revenant's erratic maneuvers, its devastating attacks, had already crippled the Concorde's earlier efforts. The ancient warship fought not like a machine but like a predator, anticipating every tactic, exploiting every weakness. Targeting arrays confirm the Revenant is prioritizing electronic warfare, Captain Yulrin of the Duskfire reported. Their weapon systems seem secondary. They're disabling our shields and propulsion before we can respond. Prepare countermeasures, Selk commanded. Shield realignment and EMP bursts, anything to break their lock. The battle began in a blur of light and sound. The Revenant unleashed a torrent of kinetic projectiles that tore through shields like paper. Plasma beams carved arcs of fire across the void, puncturing hulls and igniting fuel cells. Despite the ferocity, the conquered fleet adapted. The Duskfire deployed sensor drones to track the Revenant's stealthy maneuvers. The Sovereign's engineers hacked their own systems to restore electronic defenses mid-battle. Yet the Revenant's responses were swift and brutal. Its AI recalibrated tactics in real time, anticipating fleet formations before they could stabilize. Sudden pulse from the Revenant's weapon bay sent a shockwave of gravitational energy rippling through the fleet, forcing ships into chaotic spins and collisions. Shields failing on the Valiant, hull breaches reported. Came the alarm. Admiral, Selk gritted his teeth. Focus fire on their left flank. Exploit any openings. But the Revenant was no ordinary target. Its armor, layered with experimental alloys and energy-dispersing fields, shrugged off sustained bombardment. The ship twisted through space like a living thing, its weapons cycling faster with each passing moment. Suddenly, the Sovereign's command console blinked red. Admiral, enemy boarding pods detected, the tactical officer warned. They're deploying units. Selk's heart pounded. Boarding actions were archaic, relics of an older era, but the Revenant had resurrected them with terrifying efficiency. Small assault crafts, dark and angular, zipped through the debris field toward the conquered ships. Seal all bulkheads, Selk ordered. Prepare to repel boarders. On the Sovereign, alarms blared as boarding parties breached outer decks. Marines scrambled into battle armor, plasma rifles charging as they clashed with enemy combatants. But these were no ordinary soldiers. The attackers moved with mechanical precision, their movements enhanced by cybernetic implants. Their faces were obscured by helmets with glowing red visors, half machine, half human. Enemy combatants are hybrids, the chief medical officer reported. Genetic enhancements combined with cybernetic augmentation. Selk's voice was grim. The Revenant's crew isn't just dead men. It's a fusion of man and machine. Back in space, the tide of battle shifted again. The Duskfire's sensors picked up an anomaly, an energy spike on the Revenant's rear thrusters. Admiral, the ship is charging a new weapon, Yulrin reported. Unknown type, massive power draw. Selk clenched his fists. All units, brace for impact. A moment later, a blast of shimmering energy erupted from the Revenant's aft section, a beam that distorted space itself. The Sovereign's shields flared violently but were overwhelmed. The flagship shuddered as power systems faltered. We're losing propulsion, the helmsman shouted. Emergency backup, Selk ordered. Redirect power to engines. The battle raged, a furious dance of death and destruction. The Revenant pressed its advantage, relentless and merciless. As the Concorde fleet began to falter, a desperate message crackled through the comm channels, an encrypted transmission, fragmented but clear enough to be understood. All units. Evacuate. Revenant. Weapon of extinction. The order was chilling, but Selk knew it was true. The Revenant was not just a warship. It was a weapon designed for one purpose, annihilation. Yet even as the Concorde forces retreated, a seed of defiance grew. Captain Rena Tisari, aboard Lysar Haven, stared out at the ravaged system. This fight isn't over, she vowed. We will find a way. And somewhere deep inside the Revenant, the cold voice of the ancient AI echoed. We seek not destruction, but sovereignty. The battered remnants of the conquered fleet limped away from the Lysar system, their hulls scarred and their crews weary. The Sovereign led the retreat, its engines glowing faintly as emergency repairs kept it barely functional. The Revenant's relentless assault had exposed weaknesses in the Coalition's forces, but it also left behind a vital question. Why had humanity returned now, and what was their true purpose? Captain Rena Tessari paced the dim command deck of Lysar Haven, her mind racing through fragments of intercepted transmissions and the grim reports from Admiral Selk's fleet. The Revenant's AI had spoken of sovereignty and reclamation, but sovereignty over what? And from whom? Her comm panel buzzed sharply. Lieutenant Jarek Vorn's voice came through, tense but steady. "Captain, our research teams have found something. You need to see this." Minutes later, in the station's secure briefing room, Lena Morales and her team laid out their findings. "We decrypted more from the Revenant's AI core," Lena explained, her fingers flicking through holographic images of ancient Earth, cities, ruins buried beneath miles of soil and stone. "These aren't just remnants of a fallen civilization," she said. "They're archives, technology vaults, and," Joran, Lena's assistant, cut in, "hidden weapons caches, experimental tech, and genetic libraries. Earth never truly died, it went into hiding. The Revenant was their guardian, a last bastion to protect this legacy until the galaxy was ready, or ripe, for reclamation." Rena's eyes narrowed. "But why now? What triggered this reawakening?" Lena hesitated. "Our data suggests a trigger embedded deep within the Revenant's AI, a failsafe tied to galactic events. Something in the recent decades disrupted their dormancy." Jarek added, "We detected encrypted signals from deep space, originating from a cluster beyond the outer rim. We believe it was a beacon, a call to arms for any surviving Terran forces." Rena rubbed her temples. "So humanity has been waiting, watching, and now they've decided to strike back." The room fell silent, the weight of revelation sinking in. Meanwhile, beneath Lysar's crust, the Revenant's influence spread. Automated mining drones began excavating ancient tunnels, awakening dormant machinery designed to rebuild the Terran stronghold. In a hidden subterranean vault, bioengineered soldiers, descendants of Earth's last defenders, emerged from stasis pods. Their eyes glowed faintly with synthetic implants, their bodies honed for war. Commander Mikhail Ryazan, one of the human hybrids, surveyed the awakening soldiers. His voice was cold and commanding. "The Sol reclamation is underway. Our time to reclaim the stars has come." Back on Lysar Haven, Rena knew the galaxy faced a new kind of war, one that would test the limits of diplomacy, technology, and survival. "We must act quickly," she said, turning to Lena and Jarek. "Find any weakness in the Revenant's AI or its systems. If we can disrupt its control, we might buy time." Lena nodded. "We're already working on countermeasures, but it won't be easy. The AI is adaptive, constantly evolving. It's more than just software, it's a consciousness." Suddenly, the station's alarms blared. Sensors detected a new vessel emerging from Lysar's outer asteroid belt, a sleek, angular ship bearing the unmistakable mark of Earth's lost fleet. "Another Revenant-class warship," Jarek reported. "And it's headed straight for us." Rena squared her shoulders. "Then it's time to fight." The galaxy had awakened an ancient force, one fueled by vengeance, survival, and a legacy buried beneath centuries of dust. And now, the war for humanity's future had truly begun. The new Revenant-class warship cut through the darkness of Lysar's orbit like a predator stalking its prey. Its hull, a twisted silhouette of dark steel and glowing conduits, seemed almost alive, pulsating with the latent power of humanity's forgotten past. Captain Rena Tessari stood on the bridge of Lysar Haven, her gaze locked on the looming threat. The station's defenders scrambled to ready their weapons, the air thick with tension and the promise of violence. "Status report," Rena demanded. Lieutenant Jarek Vorn's fingers danced over the console. "The ship's shielding is unlike anything we've seen. It adapts quickly to energy weapons and electronic attacks. Our initial volleys had little effect." Rena frowned. "What about the countermeasures Lena's team developed?" Lena Morales appeared at the rear of the bridge, her expression grim but determined. They're holding, for now. The AI's learning curve is steep, but it's vulnerable to targeted disruptions in its data core. We just need a window. Rena nodded. We'll create that window. Prepare the station's point defense batteries. Focus on disabling its sensor arrays. As Lycer Haven unleashed a barrage of concentrated fire, the Revenant-class ship responded with brutal efficiency. Its weapons hammered the station's outer defenses, ripping chunks from its hull. Suddenly, a ripple of energy swept through the station's systems, a coordinated EMP strike that plunged entire sectors into darkness. Power fluctuations across. "The board!" the engineering officer shouted. "We're losing control of several turrets." "Manual overrides," Rena ordered. "Get those batteries back online." Amid the chaos, a small fleet of Concord reinforcements arrived, damaged, but resolute. Captain Yalrin's Duskfire led the charge, engaging the enemy's flank with precision strikes. "Admiral Selk sends his regards," Yalrin said grimly over the comms. "We're not giving up Lysar without a fight." The battle escalated into a deadly dance of fire and metal. Boarding pods launched from the Revenant-class ship, slamming into Lysar Haven's hull and igniting fierce close-quarters combat. Rena's Marines engaged the invaders, their plasma rifles casting eerie glows in the station's corridors. The boarding parties enhanced with cybernetic augmentations fought with relentless precision. "Commander Ryazan," Rena said through the channel, her voice steady. "This isn't just a warship, it's a fortress. We need to hit their command core to cripple their control over these boarding forces." Ryazan's cold voice replied, "Agreed, but the core is buried deep beneath layers of defense and AI firewalls. We'll need a coordinated strike." Rena tapped her comm unit. "Then it's time to send in our best. Prepare a strike team to breach their hull and plant an EMP device at the core." Joran, Lena's assistant, hesitated before adding, "We have the schematics. The AI's neural pathways are centralized in the core. Disrupt them, and we might sever their control over the ship and the soldiers." Rena's eyes blazed with determination. "Then let's make this count." The strike team launched in sleek assault pods hurtling through the chaos toward the Revenant-class warship. Inside, the AI sensed their intrusion and retaliated, unleashing automated defenses, turret batteries, robotic sentries, and a cascade of security drones. The corridors of the enemy ship became a labyrinth of fire and shadows as the strike team fought their way through. Every step forward was paid in blood, but the promise of victory spurred them on. Meanwhile, back on Lysar Haven, Lena worked feverishly to exploit the window the strike team would create. The station's systems hummed with raw energy as she uploaded counter-hacking codes designed to infiltrate and disrupt the Revenant's AI. "Almost there," Lena murmured, sweat beading on her forehead. Suddenly, a piercing alarm shattered the moment. "Core breach detected," came the voice of the Revenant's AI, cold and calculating. "Initiating emergency protocols." Explosions rocked the enemy ship as the strike team's EMP device detonated deep within the core chamber. Systems flickered and failed. Lights went out. The AI's voice faltered. The tide of battle shifted. With the Revenant-class warship crippled, its boarding forces lost, coordination and faltered. Lysar Haven's defenders surged forward, reclaiming lost ground. Captain Rena exhaled slowly, relief washing over her. "We've turned the tide." But as the smoke cleared, a new, deeper threat echoed in the void, a warning from the remnants of the AI. "We are not alone. The Sovereign Ones approach." Rena's eyes narrowed. The war was far from over. The victory over the Revenant-class warship was hard won, but fleeting. As the battered forces of Lysar Haven and the Concord fleet regrouped, the dark warning echoed relentlessly in Captain Rena Tessari's mind. "We are not alone. The Sovereign Ones approach." On the bridge, alarms screamed again. This time, a storm of unidentified vessels emerged from hyperspace, casting a shadow over the retreating Concord fleet. Their design was alien in the purest sense, sleek, yet terrifyingly organic, like living creatures forged in metal and light. Fleet Admiral Selk gritted his teeth. "Unknown origin. Not Terran, not any faction we know." Rena stared at the holographic display. The Sovereign One's ships moved with eerie synchronization, a silent flotilla of death. Their weapon systems glowed with an otherworldly energy, and their presence exuded an overwhelming aura of power and purpose. "We've encountered nothing like this," Lena Morales said quietly. "If the Revenant was a ghost from humanity's past, these ships, they're something else entirely. A force beyond the stars." Suddenly, the Sovereign One's fleet unleashed a coordinated attack. Energy beams sliced through space, devastating. Conquered vessels with precise, devastating accuracy. The Sovereign flagship shuddered under fire, shields flickering. "Brace for impact," Selk yelled. The battle was more brutal and swift than anything before. The Sovereign Ones fought like entities of pure will, untouchable and relentless. In the chaos, Rena made a decision. "We cannot stand and fight blindly. We need to uncover who or what the Sovereign Ones are." She ordered a daring boarding mission aboard a disabled Sovereign vessel. The strike team, including Lena, Joran, and Captain Yulrin, prepared for the dangerous descent. Inside the alien ship, silence greeted them. The corridors pulsed faintly with bioluminescent veins, and strange symbols adorned the walls, symbols that seemed to shift and writhe when observed directly. As they ventured deeper, a holographic projection flickered to life, an ancient being of light and shadow. "I am the voice of the Sovereign Ones," it intoned, voice like a chorus. "Guardians of cosmic balance, your emergence threatens the order. Humanity's reclamation disrupts the harmony we vowed to protect." Lena stepped forward. "Why attack us? We seek only to survive." The projection's eyes, pools of infinite stars, pierced through her. "Survival at the cost of the galaxy's stability cannot be tolerated. You are the remnants of a war that shattered worlds. Your awakening will rekindle chaos." Captain Yulrin's hand hovered over his weapon. "Then what do you want from us?" "To return to the void," the Sovereign voice replied. "To recede into oblivion or face eradication." Back in orbit, the Concord fleet held position, their weapons ready but uncertain. The revelation was staggering. The Sovereign Ones were cosmic arbiters, ancient watchers who viewed humanity's return as a cataclysm. Rena knew this was more than a battle for Lysar or even humanity's survival. It was a war for existence itself. "We must find a way to negotiate," Rena said urgently. "There has to be a path to peace." Lena nodded. "If we can understand their purpose, maybe we can find common ground." But time was running out. The Sovereign fleet prepared for a final assault. The energy crackling in the void grew unbearable, and distant stars seemed to dim under the pressure. In the heart of Lysar Haven, Rena addressed the remaining forces. "Hold your positions. Prepare for a last stand, but also prepare for diplomacy. The fate of humanity and the galaxy rests on this moment." As the first beams of the Sovereign attack sliced through the void, a sudden burst of energy erupted from deep within Lysar's subterranean vaults, the hidden human stronghold awakening fully, its power radiating out like a beacon of defiance. The Revenant AI's voice echoed across the fleet, now tempered with something almost human. "We are the children of Earth's last dawn. We will not fade quietly into the night." The battle raged like a storm, but amid the fury a fragile thread of hope emerged, a chance that humanity, the galaxy's long-lost child, might carve out a place among the stars once more. And as stars collided and empires trembled, one truth remained clear. The saga of humanity had only just begun.